Princess decree justice, and from whom alone cometh all counsel, wisdom, and understanding. We, thine unworthy servant, here gathered together, in thy name, do most humbly beseech thee to send down thy heavenly wisdom from above, to direct and guide us in all our consultations. And grant that, we having thy fear always before our eyes, and laying aside all private interests, prejudice, and partial affections, the result of all our counsel may be to the glory of thy blessed name, the maintenance of true religion and justice, the safety, honor, and happiness of the Queen, the public weal, peace, and tranquility of the island, and the uniting and knitting together of the hearts of all persons and estate within the same, in true Christian love and charity, one towards another, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Oh. And 9. Well, that's all from a 7.
May be seated. This honorable House now resumes its sitting. Call of the roll.
Mr. Bartlett, Mr. Holness, Dr. Clark, Dr. Chang, Mr. Shaw, Mr. Samuda, Ms. Grange, Mrs. Williams, Mrs. Malawu-Fort, Dr. Tufton, Mr. McKenzie, Mr. Chuck, Mr. Vaz, Mr. Warmington, Mr. Charles, Mr. Green, Mr. Morgan, Mr. Hutchinson, Mr. Terry Long, Miss Smith, Dr. Dunn, Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn, Mr. Mean, Mr. Davis, Mr. Witter, Mr. Brown, Dr. Brown Burke, Dr. Charles, Mr. Chin, Mr. Clark, Mr. Cousins, Miss Crawford, Miss Daly, Miss Davis, Mr. Golding, Mr. Graham, Dr. Guy, Miss Hamilton, Miss Hannah, Mr. Henriquez, Mr. Henry, Mr. Hilton, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Lawrence, Miss Lee, Mr. Miller, Mr. Montague, Miss Morrison, Mrs. Nita Garvey, Mr. Paulwell, Mr. Phillips, Dr. Phillips, Mr. Robertson, Mr. Robinson, Mr. Siblist, Mr. Slowly, Mrs. Vaz, Dr. Wheatley, Mrs. Vaz, Mr. Williams, Mr. Wilson, and Mr. Wright. Ms. Hamilton.
Statement by ministers. Announcements.
Announcement. Laid on the table of the House today are the following: Annual Report of the Tourism Enhancement Fund for the year 2020-2021. Annual Report of the Jamaica Tourist Board for the year 2018-2019. The Integrity Commission investigation into the failure of a Member of Parliament to file statutory declarations with the Commission. The Auditor General's Department Certified Appropriation Account, Head 28,030 for the Administrator General's Department for the year 2019-2020.
Bills brought from the Senate, petitions, papers, reports from committees, notices of motions given orally, questions and answers to questions, motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice, motions relating to the sitting of the House, motions for leave to introduce bills, presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained. Public business. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, at this time, the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries will take item 6 under the government business, the Conch Export Levy, Rate of Levy Order 2022 Resolution. Minister.
Thank you, House Leader. Madam Speaker, sorry. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Before this Honourable House are the Conch Export Levy, Rate of Levy Order 2022 and the Conch Export Levy, Rate of Levy Order 2022 Resolution. This Honourable House should note that the Conch Export Levy Act was passed in 2009 with its main purpose to facilitate the imposition of a levy to be paid on each pound of conch exported during each conch season pursuant to Section 3 of the Act. Section 9 of the Act, Madam Speaker, establishes the Fisheries Management and Development Fund, and that fund mandates that all proceeds of the levy collected are to be allocated to the fund so as to facilitate the sustainable management and development of the fisheries sector. Section 11 of the said Act also stipulates that any exporter who fails to pay the levy commits an offence and is liable to summary conviction in a parish court to a fine equivalent to 5 times the value of the unpaid amount of the levy, or $3 million, whichever is greater, and in default of payment, to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 12 months. Section 12 provides for the unpaid levy to be recovered summarily by the Commissioner without limit to the amount as a civil debt in the parish court at the suit of the Attorney General. Now, Madam Speaker, this Honourable House is reminded that the levy which was last imposed for the 2021 conch season at 50 cents in the currency of the United States of America dollars, or its Jamaican equivalent, per pound of conch exported, that levy had remained unchanged since 2018 conch season. And this was largely due to the negative economic fallout in the fisheries sector flowing from the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as loss of earnings on the part of the industrial fishers, which resulted from the closure of the conch fishing season for an extended period, and we'll note that it was reopened last year in 2021. That said, Madam Speaker, I therefore find it appropriate not to increase the rate of levy at this juncture, but to give time to allow the fishers to get back on their feet, as well as to ensure that there is relevant sensitization to be undertaken prior to implementing an increase in the rate of the levy. Accordingly, in exercise of the power conferred upon the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries under Section 3, subsection 1C2 of the Act, I made the order for an exporter to pay a levy at the same unchanged rate of 50 US cents or the Jamaican equivalent to the Veterinary Services Division for each pound of conch exported during the 2022 conch season, which opened in March and will come to an end on August 31st of this year. Therefore, Madam Speaker, the object of the order pursuant to Section 3 is to legally require a person who proposes to export or exports conch to pay to the Veterinary Services Division that levy of 50 cents in the currency of United States dollars or the equivalent for each pound of conch exported during this year's season. In the circumstances, given the matters highlighted above, I ask this Honourable House for its full support in affirming by resolution the conch export levy rate of levy order for 2022.
Thanks, Minister. Would any other member of the House want to contribute to this debate before it closes? Okay, thank you, Minister. You may conclude the debate on the motion. Please put the resolution.
Madam Speaker, we ask that the Honourable House support and affirm by resolution the conch export levy rate of levy order 2022.
The question is that the motion be approved. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, today it is our intention to continue the sectoral debate. The Honourable Carl Samuda, Minister of Labour and Social Security, will be our first speaker, and he will be followed by Member Lisa Hanna, Member of Parliament for St. Anne's South Eastern.
Thanks, House Leader. Minister Samuda.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Yes, it is indeed. It has indeed been a long time. Having sat in this chamber for, what's the matter? The mic not on? You can hear me now? You can hear? All right. Having sat in this chamber, having been in this chamber now over a period of 10 terms in office as a member of Parliament, spanning a period of 42 years, I've had the privilege, Madam Speaker, of serving. We have had 8 Prime Ministers, and I've served in this House with 6 of those 8 Prime Ministers. The only 2 that I did not share this House with is Sir Alexander Bustamante and Sir Donald Sangster. It has been a wonderful experience, and whilst I am not announcing my departure, I don't think it would take a genius to understand that that time is drawing near. But that has been possible, Madam Speaker, because of a bond that has been created between myself and those who ultimately make the final decision. And I think I am eminently qualified to say that over those many years that I have been here, the only difference between us fundamentally is the fact that some of us sit on this side and others sit on that side. But when it comes to one common interest, the interest of the affairs of the people of Jamaica, there is no difference. We both share that concern jointly. And for that, it has been a wonderful pleasure on my part to have engaged in sometimes heated debate. But at the root of it all, the reason why we can leave here and have a drink, have a chat, is because of that common interest in the people of Jamaica. I have been fortunate during the entire time that I have spent here to have had beside me a team of persons who today is like family. They have served loyally, and they have been dedicated to the task of improving the quality of life for the people who we serve. The person who I hold in the highest possible esteem and love, of course, is my wife of 45 years. She has stood by my side through thick and thin. There have been many thin. There have been some uphill tasks that we have had to jointly tackle, but God has been good to us. We have 3 sons, and we have a large number of persons who continue every day to express their affection for her. In fact, right now I think she's more highly regarded in the seat than I am. But that notwithstanding, it has been truly wonderful, Madam Speaker. I want first, before going into the debate, to express my gratitude for those with whom I have served in 6 different ministries over this period. And boy, I'm telling you, what an experience. But in this term, serving in the Ministry of Education is arguably the most meaningful for me, because the purpose of my entering politics was because of my upbringing and because of my commitment to serving the people most vulnerable in this country. That is my real motivation. I was never motivated by a like or dislike for any particular person. My only objective was to serve my country. And thank God, God has given me a long life and has seen me through these 42 years. But without the support of my wife and my family, it just simply would not be possible. We, at the moment, are working collectively in the Ministry of Labor and Social Security with leadership that is absolutely fantastic. Our permanent secretary is a person of honor, a person who is highly intelligent, a bit stubborn at times, highly intelligent, hardworking, and is always willing to extend herself on behalf of the ministry to me and to other colleagues with whom she works. The entire staff has welcomed me. I feel comfortable. I get a little frustrated from time to time. I may, get a little angry also. But when things are taken in totality, it is a wonderful opportunity to serve in a really meaningful ministry, the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. Our mandate includes in this ministry the promotion of productivity for growth, ensuring the safety and health of our workers, maintenance of an effective and efficient labor market, and the promotion of social inclusion for all. Make no mistake about it, our country continues to grapple with the effects of the global pandemic. Like many other countries, we have had to pivot, redefine, and redirect our efforts to ensure that we do not lose the gains which we made pre-COVID. Our ministry has therefore continued to aggressively deliver the government's relief interventions to the poorest and most vulnerable among us. And that is the part of this ministry that gives me absolute joy. Madam Speaker, in July 2021, we successfully launched the new social pension program for our elderly population. For the first time in our history, Jamaica now has a mechanism through which we systematically provide a government benefit to vulnerable persons 75 years of age and over. We have committed to deliver a benefit of at least $6,800 to these persons every 2 months. Hitherto, that was an unknown factor, as long as they remain alive. This is in addition to delivering benefits to our NIS contributors and to other vulnerable populations through our social protection flagship intervention, the Program of Advancement through Health and Education, better known as PATH. Madam Speaker, the recurrent estimates of expenditure for 22-23 fiscal year is $14.22 billion. This represents an increase of 3.9% over the $13.7 billion original estimates for 21-22 fiscal year. However, when comparing the financial year 22-23 with the supplementary estimates for financial year 21-22, there was a reduction of 23.8%. This reduction was primarily as a result of the one-off SURF payment totaling $2.65 billion, assistance under the UN World Food Programme totaling $334 million, the school feeding payments made on behalf of the Ministry of Education totaling $1.5 billion. Turning to the purpose for which we are all gathered here, I've always maintained that we come here to pass laws. That's the fundamental reason why we are here. We are a house of legislators, and therefore it is very important to any ministry I've served in that attention is paid to our legislative program. First, let me start with the Disabilities Act and the Disabilities Regulations. Madam Speaker, it may be recalled that in the sectoral debate of 2021, we had committed to tabling the Disabilities Regulations and bringing the Disabilities Act into effect in 21-22. The Disabilities Regulations were affirmed in the House of Representatives on October the 6th, 2021, and on the Senate on October 22nd, 2021. The Disabilities Act 2014, I want you to take note of that date, 2014, became effective on February the 14th, 2022. That is the time. That is the time it took, which quite frankly is unacceptable for a thing as important as this. It is expected that the passage of the Act and regulations will enhance the full and effective participation of persons with disabilities in the Jamaican society. Madam Speaker, February 14, 2022 began the dawn of a new day in Jamaica for persons with disabilities. As we take the next steps forward in the process of entrenchment of disability rights in our legislation, the Disabilities Act coming into effect indicates the government's unwavering commitment to the principles of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And I am proud to be the minister who has brought this into effect. Persons with disabilities have the same fundamental rights as any other person in our society. As a government, we commit to effective implementation of this legislation, thus ensuring that Jamaica becomes progressively more inclusive. We are on a sure path to inclusion as the implementation of the Act takes shape. I welcome Chairman Mr. Colin Ebanks and the members of the first management board of the JCPD, with whom I met at their inaugural meeting. Madam Speaker, as the financial year progresses, you will see more deliberate effort in the implementation of the Act. This will ensure greater equality of participation and non-discrimination in the areas of education, employment, health, and justice. Public awareness and sensitization about disability matters will become the main staple as we seek to decrease stigma and discrimination and increase inclusion and participation. My colleague and friend and opposition spokesman on Labour and Social Security has worked closely with me in ensuring the success of the passage of this bill, and I welcome his participation, and I am very pleased to say that our relationship has only grown better over this period of ministry, and I intend to keep it that way. I therefore encourage you, my fellow Jamaicans, to ensure that each person plays their part to make inclusion happen. Currently, the government is the largest employer of persons with disabilities. Yet, Madam Speaker, there are several public buildings where the disabled cannot gain access, including Parliament. But that will change with this administration. It will change. I am making an appeal to members of the private sector to employ more persons with disabilities. Hire them not just because they are not employed and you bring them in at the lowest staff level, but at every level in your organization, in keeping with their capabilities, and they have the capabilities. I'm looking forward to working with the private sector in ensuring that the level of respect is shown to persons with disabilities. As a society, we must do more to ensure that our brothers and sisters living with disabilities have greater access and are not underemployed or discriminated against in the workplace. And anywhere we find evidence and can successfully prove that evidence, we will be bringing the matter to court. We will not tolerate any overt discrimination against persons with disabilities. A concerted effort is required from every Jamaican in every corner of Jamaica. We are on the path to greater inclusion, and no one will be left behind. Madam Speaker, it is a matter that has occupied a lot of time in discussion, and I refer specifically now to the Occupational Safety and Health Bill. Madam Speaker, as our economy rebounds from COVID-19 pandemic, having a highly motivated, safe and healthy labour force that is poised to achieve its full potential is critical for Jamaica's social and economic growth. Regrettably, Jamaica's current safety and health legislation is limited in its scope and coverage as it applies mainly to workers in the industrial sectors such as manufacturing, construction, and on the docks. A significant portion of the labour force is not afforded the occupational safety and health protection expected from a developing country such as ours. Madam Speaker, you may recall our past commitment to seek Cabinet's approval for the incorporation of sustainable policy decisions and recommendations that ensure that the Joint Select Committee that deliberated the occupational safety and health hazard bill be pursued. The bill received intensive review by members of the public and private sector, professional associations, civil society groups, and members of the public before the committee's dissolution. Thanks to the committee members who served, especially my former Minister of State, Honourable Xavier Main, who chaired the committee. Now that he has moved on to greener pastures in the Ministry of National Security, I am sure he carries with him the wealth of experience and ability that will serve the Minister of National Security and his team very well. Within the 21-22 fiscal year, the Ministry received Cabinet approval for the redrafting of the OSH bill, as it is commonly known, to include enhanced provisions and subsequent issued drafting instruction to the Office of the Chief Parliamentary Counsel to this effect. I'd like to pause here to acknowledge the support that we have received from the newly appointed Minister of Constitutional Reform and everything else relating to the law. I assure you that this critical piece of legislation remains a high priority on her list and on the government's legislative program. Unfortunately, further adjustments had to be undertaken on the recommendations of the legal team of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. All hands are now on deck to ensure it is laid before this honourable House within this fiscal year. And I am looking forward to the continued support in expediting this matter from the Minister of Legal Reform. The tabling of the enhanced bill will be accompanied by an extensive public education and awareness campaign spanning the length and breadth of Jamaica. The minimum wage, Madam Speaker, is always an area of the ministry that causes a lot of discussion publicly and privately. Madam Speaker, it should be recalled that the government of Jamaica has ratified the International Labour Organization Domestic Workers Convention, C-189. That particular grouping within the labour organization that is relating to the domestic workers has a very special place in my heart because I believe they have been long suffering and it has been too long. Now they are emerging with full recognition for the value of the service they provide, and in that regard the ministry has made available to the association the physical environment in which to train persons in the domestic labor grouping, domestic workers grouping, so that when they leave and take a job in a home or elsewhere, they are going with a sense of properly being trained and with a sense of pride and dignity in their job, and must be treated with the utmost respect. The purpose of the C-189 is to ensure the effective promotion and protection of the human rights of all domestic workers. Legislative effect is to be given to some of the provisions of the C-189 by amendments to the Minimum Wage Act, the supporting National Minimum Wage Order, and the Employment Agencies Regulations Act. I give an undertaking that never again, certainly not on my watch, will we have to wait for 4 years before learning what the minimum wage recommended is going to be. As we speak, the Commission is at work, doing all the proprietary things that ought to be done so that we can announce our minimum wage recommendations within the year that it is to be implemented, or shortly thereafter. But never again will we have this lingering doubt as to what is taking place. Madam Speaker, the government continues on a strong path to provide for and to safeguard the rights of vulnerable Jamaicans through major investments in and partnerships to modernize our social protection systems. We are making needed interventions in social assistance, society, insurance, and labor market protection. These interventions are critical if we are to build the resilience of families and communities and reduce reliance on negative coping strategies in response to these shocks. So, Madam Speaker, we have recently launched a joint program in partnership with UNICEF. This program will enhance accessibility and strengthen our social protection system to support increased coverage and coordination and implement enhanced payment processes. We are also continuing dialogue with our international partners to identify avenues to strengthen critical partnerships and enhance existing programs, especially as it relates to increasing access to employment opportunities for all Jamaicans. Madam Speaker, I turn now to a very critical area within our ministry, and one that I know is of interest to every member here, our rehabilitation program. Madam Speaker, over the financial year 21-22, the public assistance arm of the ministry, which is social security side of our ministry, disbursed grants to 9,170 vulnerable households at a value of approximately $358 million under the rehabilitation program. We also continued to provide food support to families negatively impacted by the pandemic. Over 4,000 food packages from the ministry's Central Foods Warehouse were distributed to needy families across the island. In addition, Madam Speaker, we partnered with the United Nations World Food Programme to distribute a further 11,000 food packages to other needy families. In relation to our response to disasters, we share this responsibility with the Ministry of Local Government, and recently we did some very good work together in St. Mary. The ministry continues to deliver on its role as a first responder to citizens impacted by natural and man-made disasters. Over the period April to December 2021, the ministry responded to over 150 incidents of fire, providing grants as well as household articles and comfort items to 214 families, representing 621 individuals. In response to the February flood rains in St. Mary, we are providing grants totaling $26.3 million to 879 affected households and $1.3 million to 31 vendors in the Port Maria Arcade, whose livelihoods were also affected by the food. I attended, and I tell you, it was wonderful to see the response and the gratitude of the people to what we were doing to help them. Of course, we went there with a little more money than local government, but local government stole the entire show. Minister of Local Government has a lock on these matters. So poor little Minister of Labour just came, did his work along with the MP and the councillor. Well, he has promised he will. The people are, I found it strange that the minister who speaks a lot about St. Mary and the committed disciple of Taki was not present. And we were looking for him, but he wasn't present. But he has promised to one day return when something else is coming. Madam Speaker, 1,285 of our young beneficiaries on the PATH program received post-secondary tuition assistance valued at $315 million, and a further 2,056 received tertiary bursaries valued at approximately $206 million. Through a collaboration with the World Food Programme, we distributed grants totaling over $150 million to 9,241 families with food needs as a result of the COVID pandemic. Clap me. Let us sit down. We also distributed $413.3 million in welfare aid under the government SERVE program to 41,307 NIS pensioners receiving benefits of less than $10,000 per month. Clap me again. Don't clap me. Clap the Andrew Holness-led government of the Jamaica Labour Party. A caring government. Don't worry about spoiling. I spoil anything. I soon come to you, is all right? My old friend, you know. Improvements. Madam Speaker, I'm delighted to inform you that our social workers are now equipped with tablets to improve our data collection in the field and the efficiency with which we process our benefits. So that prior to this, the social workers would go out and they would have to take notes and all the rest of it. Today, they are equipped with tablets, so the information flows immediately. We have also converted our grants database to a shared digital format to improve the turnaround time for applications and facilitate ease of reporting. Real time and I want to address this to all those who have had exposure in the Ministry of Local Government. What happens now is that when somebody goes to the office in any parish and makes a request, it is entered on a computer and instantly transmitted to Kingston, where it is real-time response. Not as was before, where we used to write it in a book and then take it to Kingston for review and take it back and all that. We are moving at the speed of light in real time so we can be ahead of the curve. For 2022-23, in this new financial year, we will continue to improve our processes through utilization of technology by creating a digital payment platform for our rehab grants. Gone are the days where you have people coming in and collecting them check and going out, and sometimes they lose it, they can't get it cash and all this rubbish. We are moving away from that kind of hardware and we're going to a digital society. We will also continue the rollout of our digital disaster assessment tool, the Jamaica Household Disaster Impact Needs Assessment Form, which will be informed by the tablets. We are upgrading the systems to facilitate the passage of benefits to the poor and needy and most vulnerable in our country. Turning to the program of advancement through health and education path. Madam Speaker, the government dispersed $8.3 billion to 140,000 path families on path during the 21-22 financial year. Another $1.4 billion was delivered to path families under the SERVE program to cushion the economic hardship brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. Path benefits are reviewed every 2 years to ensure that the purchasing power of the amount paid is maintained. Cabinet recently approved an average increase of 18.26%, amounting to an additional $1.4 billion to path beneficiaries for implementation in a matter of weeks, not months. What a great government. This increase will be paid out, as I said, in June. Madam Speaker, the COVID-19 pandemic accelerated plans within the ministry for more beneficiary families to collect their payments via electronic payment methods. And I know that the younger generation appreciates this. Old people like me and Delroy and Audley. We are not in this age. So I have to look around to the youngsters, the ones who are coming. We are going, they are coming. The percentage of beneficiary families paid by electronic methods increased from 14% in fiscal year 2019-2020 to 40% during the current fiscal year. For the 22-23 financial year, we will be undertaking to continue to increase the number of path beneficiaries receiving their benefit payments electronically in 2022-23 to 70%. 70% of those who receive their path payments will be done electronically. Social pension program, as mentioned earlier, the ministry received cabinet approval for social benefit program to be implemented for persons 75 years of age and older. To access the program, persons must not be in receipt of private or public pension, other retirement income, or social protection benefits. And that's in protection of the system and the benefits so that it can spread meaningfully. Despite being in the heights of the pandemic, the first payment was made on July the 15th, 2021, to some 200 elderly Jamaicans. At the end of the financial year, the number had increased to 7,412. Approximately 200 million was expended on benefit payments. That is progress. Madam Speaker, the Ministry will be working assiduously to increase the number of beneficiaries on the program to 20,000 during the 22-23 financial year. And in order to do that, we have employed a brigade of youngsters, unemployed, to go from one end of the island to the other. And many members of Parliament, some have done well, others have done poorly. Others have not responded to our requests for recommendations for youngsters to go out into the field and to find the elderly. Some have disappointed us. Let me make that clear to you. And I have a fix on all those who have disappointed me. I'm not going to embarrass you here today. But I have the fix on all of you. And I have a fix on all those who we have asked to give us 300 people per constituency. Still can't get the names. You don't even go out and find the names. And these are benefits that will accrue to the poor. So when you come here and bawl out about poor people and want to tear down the place with tears, and when you get an opportunity to do something about it, you don't. But you know I am. I tell it as it is. Madam Speaker, the Ministry will be working assiduously to increase the number of beneficiaries on the program, as I said, to 20,000 during this year. The budget is in place to facilitate this uptake. We will also be rolling out the life certificate, which will, of course, confirm that the person receiving the benefit is still alive. And that's the purpose of that. With respect to the members of Parliament themselves, we have a program for what we like to call short-term relief for persons. Well, the MPs need the short-term relief themselves, but this is not for them. This is not for the MPs, although plenty of us need it. This is for the people who we represent. So this year, as we did last year, and some people didn't spend it, some people got the money, but never spent it. Did not spend it. I tell you, I'm not going to embarrass anybody today. But we are going to be, again, providing $1.5 million for that purpose, so that you can assist. I want to indicate that a lot has been coming out in the press about the importation of workers. Under the Constitution, the only person under law who can grant a work permit for someone to come to Jamaica and work is the Minister of Labour. And because I'm so personally involved and I'm so careful about my name and my reputation, I look at that program very carefully. And I can assure you that the structures that we have put in place so far and what we are going to do to improve it is going to ensure that a decision is not made lightly to provide persons to come in and just work and use our country to their benefit at the detriment of Jamaicans who need work. So that is one of the strategies we are going to employ to maximize our workforce involvement. But you must understand and realize, when you see in other countries, the same thing applies. We are now moving from 12.6% at the end of 2021, unemployment rate. And it fell at the end of 21. Unemployment rate had fallen to 7.1. But through the efforts led by the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance and others, it has now moved, as you know, down to 6.2. Now, now let me just explain something. Because we are a developing country, Canada and the United States, if you get down to 3.5% unemployment rate, you are fully employed at that advanced economy. When you are in a country like Jamaica, that rate is higher. The threshold is higher. So we are at 6.2, which is on the crest. We are on the crest of full employment. Do you know that I've been in this house, I said when I started, for 42 years. And in all those 42 years, the one thing I can say is a repetitive decimal is the extent to which the opposition party that now occupies those seats as they duly deserve I was over there at an advanced stage. But the fact of the matter is that the performance of this government has not been matched by the opposition. That's not fiction. That's not fiction. And every single one of you there hold us in envy. Every one of you would love to be able to say, why, Andrew, a failure, you know, say unemployment gone through the roof. That's what they would say. That's what they're dying to say, but can't. But can't. So they are now sending emissaries to go outside of their scope of competence, to make utterances about labor that they know nothing about. When you are at this stage, and I challenge any of you, because you know something, Fitz told me the other day that he was trying to get a plumber and couldn't get one. Could not get a plumber because everybody was employed. Everywhere he went, none available. In fact, the incidence of redundancies are down, which is a clear indication.
The Minister's time for speaking has expired. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I ask that the House allow the member enough time to complete his presentation.
That may not help. I overheard. Member Hannah, Minister. I can hear the comments of 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I would be very happy to ensure that only 5 minutes is given across the board today.
Madam Speaker.
So give him 15. Members, the question is that the Minister be allowed sufficient time to complete his presentation. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it.
You know, the other day, Madam Speaker, so now we move to the one that is of greatest interest, it appears. Overseas employment. Madam Speaker, I'm proud to report that for 2021-22 fiscal year, 14,364 Jamaicans were placed in overseas employment opportunities in Canada, the United States, and Guantanamo Bay, under the ministry's overseas employment program. Consistent with the trend, more than 60% of these opportunities were accounted for under the Canadian program. So the Canadians give us more of these, greater participation. 8,464 Jamaicans were placed in Canada. 7,822 were placed on the seasonal and 656 on the low-skill program, which is a separate program where they can apply independently. 5,839 Jamaicans were placed on under the United States Agriculture and Hospitality program. 4,228 were placed in agriculture jobs and 1,611 in hospitality. Now, Madam Speaker, what we're doing is seeking to expand the whole entire program. 61 persons were dispatched to Guantanamo Bay. We are doing everything to expand the program so that many more Jamaicans can get an opportunity to go abroad and help their families with the money that they earn. Many children are able to go to school and elevate themselves and their families through the support provided by the Farm Work Program. Farm Work Program earns money for Jamaica, net money, U.S. money. Madam Speaker, there are many more Jamaicans who are hoping to achieve the same benefits by participating in this very valuable program. So, Madam Speaker, in order for the program to fulfill the expectations of so many Jamaicans, we have to craft a strategy to reform and expand the program. In the United States, Jamaicans accounted for Jamaica under the program, it's an international program open to the world. Jamaica only accounts for 2% of the 258,000 seasonal agricultural H-2A visa issued last year. In that program, the Mexicans account for 93%, and we can understand that because they have a common border and they can drive across into the Midwest areas of the United States, they have that advantage. However, another 3%, remarkably, of the H-2A visas was issued to South Africa, where they have to travel for days at great cost to get to the United States. Now, if South Africans can leave South Africa and get jobs under this program, as far as we are concerned, we feel that there are great opportunities for Jamaicans to increase the numbers. Madam Speaker, there is a massive room for growth. The prayer promises of Canada, Manitoba, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, when you look at the graph as to where our people are, they're not there at all. So what we need to do in order to accelerate the growth of the program is we need to employ more extension officers. And we are now in the process of engaging 3 new extension officers to go out and go into the areas where the farmers are. Liaison officers, not liaison officers, to go into these areas and to meet with the farmers and literally to encourage them to use the services of the Jamaican farmers. I visited with the major manager of this program in the United States on the weekend. And to the last person at the executive level said that the best workers in the United States under this program are the Jamaicans. The best workers, and that's a categorical statement. We're going to use that now to build on that, to expand the whole thing. But one of the impediments is the time it takes. I don't know anybody here was in local government or labor and know anything about it. But the time it takes from application to taking the trip is very frustrating and discourages the whole program. And one of the things that is discouraging is the fact that a provision is in it whereby you have to pay a fee. The fee now, I think, is 30,000. 30,000 now, but it's expected to increase to 50,000. So when you get when one of your workers give a call, you get a call and say, come in tomorrow because time is of the essence. They come in and fill out the application, and then it is transferred to the U.S. Embassy. If you don't have that 30 and now going to be 50, you can't get nowhere. So what we did on the weekend is we met with the managers of these large farms, and we said to them, it is too much of a strain for the workers. They can't afford it, most of them. It is delaying the program, so I'm going to make you a business deal. We will shorten the time it takes from your request to the delivery of the worker to the airport if you pay it up front for them. And they accepted the idea of it, and they are doing an in-house assessment, but the results seem very favorable, that they will advance. So we will not need to ask the Jamaican workers, and then he deducts it from the employer. So he's just, I don't get Rona. I tell you about, you must remember, listen to me carefully now. Remember? All right, so therefore, and when I speak of this person, this group that I met with, they are responsible for 90% of the workers out of Jamaica in the United States. So these are important people, and they are true partners. So we are hopeful that this will make a big difference. In terms of, I have a responsibility for issuing work permits, and we issued 5,279 work permits last year, applications. But as I said before, we are going to be examining them far more carefully. We're going to be more discriminating, and we're going to send out teams to ensure that when we say to them, have you tried to find a Jamaican to fill the job for which we gave you a permit last year? If we don't find that to be in the affirmative, then they will not get another permit. We are literally going to twist their arm to make sure that Jamaica is not a destination or a jumping off point to anywhere else, to be facilitated for those persons who want to come here and use us. So we are going to insist that as long as there's a Jamaican available and can be identified for a job that they are going to request a permit, that is the preference for those Jamaicans. So, Madam Speaker, the system that is going to be introduced is going to cost us just under $900,000 US to implement. But it will, with laser-like accuracy, give us an opportunity to make an intelligent decision when it comes to issuing one of the most valuable pieces of paper anybody from abroad wanting to come here can ever have. And until I am satisfied as the person who has to sign them and take responsibility for the consequences, I'm going to insist that they be examined very carefully and they be very assiduous in ensuring that the regulations are maintained. Madam Speaker, I am not going to, I know that there are others, and my colleague from St. Anne is anxious to give us the good news. flowing out, but just to say that one of the most critical areas of the ministry is the Jamaica Productivity Center. And the formalization of its commitment to providing quality services to all of its stakeholders through ISO 9001-2015 training, implementation, and certification. The Jamaica Productivity Center is in the final stages of attaining this certification and has charted the path to improve and enhance the quality standards of the ministry. They are also reaching out to the private sector because they do private sector work and they're experts in the field. Madam Speaker, the national policy on productivity continues to be a key focus of the Jamaica Productivity Center. The policy is being developed as a strategic tool to improve productivity across all sectors by including a changing of the culture that prioritizes productivity across various dimensions of the economy. You see, productivity is the answer for real success. And I just used this example today, and it seemed to have attracted a lot of attention. I said, in the old days, you would be looking for a man with a cutlass to clean a sidewalk. Today, you use a man with a bush cutter. He does it in 1/5, 1/10 the time, more efficiently. So once you get into increasing, I get into that because it is productivity. It's an illustration. You want me to give you another one? Oh, all right, okay. Okay. The policy will be data-driven and seeks to encourage evidence-based research, advocacy training, and knowledge sharing on matters relating to productivity. It will also promote the manufacturing of higher value-added goods and services. We are responsible for child labor, risk identification model in partnership with Statin and ILO to mark the International Year for the Elimination of Child Labor. And this House must be very careful to consider the fact that there is abuse to our children at the workplace, and we're seeking to rid ourselves of that type of behavior. The model allows us to visualize the areas in Jamaica with higher risk for child labor. I am very pleased that we now have the eye-opening results of the model, which will be announced shortly. I'll let this Honourable House be kept abreast of it. Jamaica is the only Caribbean country that has been able to apply the model, and it allows us to better target our resources towards the elimination of child labor. You see child labor every day. You drive along the road to St. Mary, and you may not even observe it, but it's taking place all over Jamaica. Industrial disputes. The Industrial Disputes Tribunal continues to do its work, and it is having great success in solving some of the industrial problems and enables workers first going through the ministry conciliation program and then onto the Industrial Tribunal. I know there are resistance. There are people who resist elements of the Industrial Tribunal's activities, but it is an essential provision in the labor laws and must be respected. And as a result, we are trying our very best to strengthen it and to make sure that they get all that is required to expedite the process. One of the IDT's priorities for 22-23 is to improve and fully implement virtual hearing as a permanent option for our stakeholders. It is expected that this move will help to reduce the cancellation of hearings and minimize the overall disruption of matters before the tribunal. So you have virtual hearings. And as lawyers, I'm sure you will appreciate that. Madam Speaker, the Industrial Disputes Tribunal, or it's called IDT, has responsibility for the preservation of the rights of both the worker and the employer. It is not a one-sided deal. The tribunal, Madam Speaker, gives the normal wage earner and employers the opportunity of having their work-related disputes ventilated outside of the court system, although there are many lawyers who are hell-bent on getting us into the courts. But we are trying our very best to resolve these disputes outside of the courts. This arbitration machinery has comparable importance to the parish court and allows worker representatives, including trade unions, to present their cases to a competent authority. The necessity and continued relevance of the IDT has been questioned many times and in several circles. However, today, Madam Speaker, I give support to maintaining this level of autonomy in the Industrial Disputes Tribunal. In the upcoming financial year, through the Labour Advisory Council, LAC, it is my intention to engage the tripartite on suggestions to improve the timeliness for dispute settlement and other administrative enhancements. This will include greater use of digital technology for expeditious settlement. And coming to the end now, the National Insurance Scheme. Madam Speaker, you will recall that last year this Honourable House passed amendments to the National Industrial Act that addressed increases in the contribution rates and insurable rates, wage ceilings. These increases represent one aspect of the reforms of the National Insurance Scheme, NIS. This bold move signaled that the financial sustainability of the NIS and the income security of the workers in this country continues to be a priority. The reform measures recommended by the advisory and implemented since 2019 continues to yield increases in net contributions. Madam Speaker, I am pleased to report that although there was a delay with the 2019 actual review, the review for 2019 has started, and both 2019 and 2022 actuarial reports will be completed by early next year. I have taken keen note that the pensioners have been asking when will the NIS be provided an increase in their pensions. Madam Speaker, as the Minister who has to ensure that the National Insurance Fund remains viable, I am mindful that all increases are made on a basis of sound information from experts in the field. The NIS expended $20 billion to provide close to 120,000 pensions at the end of March 2021. This is not a child's play. Already over 133,000 pensions are now being paid. It is very important to know that all recommendations concerning an increase in the rates of benefits paid are based on the recommendations of the actuarial review, which is a requirement of the National Insurance Act. This, Madam Speaker, will be done next year. 8% of pensions are dispatched to pensioners who reside overseas, which means that 92% of the pensions are paid locally. Madam Speaker, in keeping with the government's thrust for greater efficiency and modernization, I am happy to report that over 82,000 or 67% of local pensions are now paid through direct deposit and is directly into the bank account of the pensioners. The NIS will continue efforts to transition the remaining 33% local pensioners to electronic payments. Everything in the Ministry of Labour in short order will be digitized and electronically dealt with. COVID-19 has brought to the fore the need for unemployment insurance for the workers in this country. This government has engaged the ILO, and we are working assiduously to see how best unemployment insurance can be provided within our Jamaican context. It must be within our Jamaican context, and we are constantly having dialogue on it. I wish to extend my gratitude for the work already done, and note that I am looking forward to the day in the not too distant future when the announcements will be made by this administration that all workers in Jamaica have access to another benefit that underscores the importance of income security. So you see, Madam Speaker, we continue to put measures in place to balance livelihoods as we seek to balance lives. That's the cornerstone of the policies of this administration. The National Insurance Fund continues to be viable and sustainable. For the 21-22 financial year, the fund has projected to achieve 12.8% year-over-year growth to close the financial year with a net asset value of $141.4 billion. With all these figures that I am announcing, you can readily appreciate, and I know looking at the minister, the leader of the opposition, you can appreciate the scope and content of that place called the Ministry of Labour and Social Security and the responsibilities that they hold. So, as at February 22, the net asset value of the fund stood at 141.71, which is an unaudited figure, and as such, the fund will marginally surpass its originally projected year-over-year growth at the close of this financial year. But remember, we're coming right out of a pandemic period, and the pandemic, in a sense, is still very much with us. A series of reform measures, the latest being the increase in the insurable wage ceiling from 1.5 million to 3 million effective April 1, 2021, has resulted in consistent positive monthly net surpluses from the NIS scheme operations. So we are growing the scheme. The ability of this scheme operations to fund the benefits of the NIS is expected to be further strengthened in the upcoming financial year with the increase in the insurable wage ceiling from 3 million to 5 million effective April 1st, 2022. Never again must there be any doubt as to the viability of the National Insurance Scheme and the fund that supports it. Despite the significant challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, total investment income, including unrealized gains, as at February 2022, remains robust at $10 billion. Total investment income is projected to be just over $11.2 billion for the financial year 21-22. Reforms of the National Insurance Fund. The National Insurance Fund anticipates that the final report of the NIF Investment Management Review Commission will result in the promulgation of a new and more robust organizational structure and investment policy. This new structure and investment policy is expected to maximize rates of return while minimizing risk. Minimizing risk. Don't pull my tongue on that one. Best you keep absolutely silent. Generate strong cash flows to meet current obligations and facilitate reinvestment and to provide a hedge against inflation. Increasing the insurable wage ceiling for the NIS. Effective April 1, 2022, the NIS insurable wage ceiling per annum will be increased from 3 million to 5 million, while the contribution rate remains unchanged at 6% to 3%, to be deducted from the employee gross salary up to $3 million earned and matched by the employer. You will agree, Madam Speaker, that this is not just good. This is very, very good and reflects mature and responsible management under this administration. The NIF will be spending approximately $30 million during fiscal year 22-23 to improve investment properties within the portfolio for compliance with the Disabilities Act and related building codes. The development of land owned by the fund in Maypen, Clarendon, into a government services center is scheduled to start this fiscal year. Approximately $108 million is earmarked for pre-construction, preliminaries, and professional services on this project. The fund continues active engagement with other state agencies with respect to the development of downtown Kingston, Morant Bay, and Port Antonio. Confident as we are in the progress being made under this administration, we willingly invest and participate in those very important schemes. There are plans to develop parcels of land owned by the fund in Portland, St. James, St. Andrew, for investment purposes. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I would like to thank the former Ministers of Labour and Social Security who established the mechanism on which we build today to respond effectively to the ever-emerging needs of our citizens. There is not a Minister of Labour and Social Security did not have at the center of their consideration the well-being of the people of Jamaica, and particularly the most vulnerable. I want to thank my astute permanent secretary, as I said before, very intelligent lady who is sitting over there, taking it in. I've always found in my, you stick to your script. Do you have one? I have always found in my life, and it's been a long life, that the people who are brilliant are always most contentious. To be contentious is a reflection of your intellect. Understand that? I find that most of you here are not contentious at all. I want to make I have your ticket, you know. I have your ticket. Yes. You better keep quiet. If it is, I have his ticket. I want to make special mention of our social workers and other team members who are the face of this ministry, responding to fires, floods, and other emergencies every day. These are people who work in rain, sunlight, fire, go through smoke, everything on behalf of the people. You have served Jamaica well, and you have made us proud. Madam Speaker, this ministry commits to continue to be the voice of the voiceless, championing the causes and upholding the rights of those who are weaker and finding opportunities for those who need help. Of course, that does not apply to the opposition. Madam, may God continue to bless Jamaica, land we love. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Samudo. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, we thank the Minister of Labour and Social Security for his presentation. And with your leave, may we invite the Member of Parliament for St. Anne South Eastern to make her presentation.
Thank you.
Everybody must have a ride or die, you know. Always, always.
Member Hannah.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Jules, pull this away from me. Thanks.
Robert,
I'm a little friend, man.
I'm a friend for what you
Madam Speaker, in 1997, Tiger Woods made history when he won the Masters tournament with the largest margin of victory. At 21 years old, he was dominant in the golf game, and he achieved professional golf greatness. And what did Tiger do after he won the Masters? He immediately changed his swing. Why did he change his swing? Because he wanted to increase his competitiveness for the future. Analysts actually declare that Tiger's habit of constant innovation made him stay ahead of the curve and gave him dominance during that particular period. Furthermore, his demonstration of not relying on his past victories for relevance not only gave him leadership in the sport, but it disrupted the traditional norms of golf. You see, Madam Speaker, it takes bold leadership and innovation to transform anything, whether it's your relationship, whether it's yourself, whether it's a sport, whether it's your life. These skills are even more critical for policymakers because we are the ones who are charged with improving the country and the people that we serve, especially in this interconnected, fast-paced world where we have the responsibility for increasing the per capita income of our people. Our Jamaican people are actually awake to the possibilities, and they look to us for courageous decision-making to improve their lives. But sadly, a lot of what we discuss in Parliament and eventually get to implement gives them scarce opportunities to harness their potential for future progress. And Madam Speaker, their hope is waning. The decisions that we take inside here impact the masses of our people. And we must be deliberate with fierce urgency, as there's actually such a thing as being too late. And I fear we're at that brink. But, Madam Speaker, this is not a moment for doom. It's not a moment for complacency, and it's not a moment for apathy. On the contrary, this is a time for vigorous action to positively change our people's fortune and increase Jamaica's global competitiveness for the future. Madam Speaker, it is time for bold thinking. Madam Speaker, Jamaica, Singapore, and the United Emirates actually got their independence from Britain between 1962 and 1971. All of these countries had a very, very similar goal: to take their people to the kind of destiny that they needed to in improving their lives and improve their economies. And if we look at where we all rank now, Singapore, in terms of where they rank in GDP per capita, ranks fourth in the world. United Arab Emirates ranks 12th, and Jamaica is at 146. The per capita income of Singapore is $98,800 US. Yeah. It's 67,100. For the United Arab Emirates, it's 97. And for Jamaica, tell me that one if you're bad. 9,800. Not too bad. But in Singapore, the average purchasing power is 10 times more than those. No, it's about 9,000. 10 times more than a Jamaican person. And by comparison, the real GDP in these countries are $561 billion US for Singapore, $655 billion for the United Arab Emirates, and for Jamaica, let's round it off at $29 billion for Jamaica. Why are these countries succeeding and we are not? The data confirm two main reasons. These countries have an unswerving commitment to universal quality education for their citizens, and their economies are geared towards value-added exports. One of the main reasons for our dismal performance is that our systemic approaches to designing and implementing policies have not changed over decades. Subsequently, Madam Speaker, we continue to do the same thing in the same way, and it is failing our people. We have failed to offer a real quality education to most of our people and have pursued an economic policy of import substitution and protection for the past 50 years, which only creates monopolies to benefit a few. Currently, Jamaica is ranked last in the English-speaking Caribbean for literacy, the lowest among the top 5 Caribbean countries in 2019 for annual labour and productivity, and last in per capita exports for the region. Madam Speaker, I'm sure the opposition spokesperson on education will offer some recommendations. It's her birthday today, so I'm sure she's celebrating somewhere. Recommendations in her presentation. However, I want to say this. In today's world, it is rooted in technology, with an economic axis that has been shifted to the east and driven by millennials. The top 10 in-demand jobs that exist today did not exist 10 years ago. And Madam Speaker, in 1947, when a little after India got their independence, their Prime Minister set in motion a vision for innovations in science and technology to shape their economy for future growth. 50 years later, 25% of India's population with the highest IQ was greater than the total population of children living in the United States of America. India had more children getting honors than the United States had children. Their leaders had a vision and pursued a strategic path that paid strong dividends, not only for their gross domestic product, but for their global good. And what we're witnessing in India today is that India ranks in the top 15 countries for pharmaceuticals in their exports. India provides 80% of the world's antiviral AIDS medication and also 20% of the world's generic drugs. Even before the COVID vaccine was developed, India was exporting hydroxychloroquine and paracetamol to over 100 countries. The Indian pharmaceutical sector, which was valued at $64 billion in 2019, is expected to grow to over $150 billion in 2025. Moreover, Madam Speaker, Indians are now the CEOs of some of the world's leading companies: PepsiCo, Adobe, Twitter, IBM, Microsoft, Google, Macron, just to name a few. This is not by accident. There is no new world coming. It is already here, and Jamaica has to pick winners to grow our economy and train our existing youth for the jobs that we want to create in the future, and redesign our education system around building talent in areas that we can compete in globally, so that our productivity improves and we can hire persons here and we don't have to lose them to a brain drain. Madam Speaker, why are you answering Carl? Our import substitution policy, Madam Speaker, which is broad-based and still being pursued today, is a dead end for several industries and has not created an export-driven economy or led to any significant export of manufactured goods, despite substantial duty protection over several years. As a matter of fact, there are about 1.5 million TEUs that come to our container port here. Only 10% of them leave with any kind of goods filling the containers, and that's a travesty. Over the past 10 years, we consistently import 4 times more than we have exported. Over the past 40 years, the Jamaican economy has only experienced anemic growth, and our per capita income for people has really not grown in a way that they can take care of themselves adequately. For example, Madam Speaker, and I want you to listen to what I'm saying, our agricultural policy supports the protection of locally grown Irish potato. Not because we have any global competitive advantage in Irish potato, not because we can compete on the world market with Irish potato, but still we put on these blinkers and think that saying it is locally produced justifies the decision to to protect it and incentivize it. Our production cost to produce locally grown Irish potato is 750% above the world market. The current farm gate price for a pound of Irish potato in this country to the Jamaican people is $1.14 US cents, or $176. The world market price for Irish potato is US 15 cents, or 23 Jamaican dollars. So Jamaicans are paying 7.5 times more the world market for this product. There's no value in producing something if we can't produce it cost effectively, or at least 40% above world market prices. Instead, we remain focused on banning the exports or having a few preferred importers, which only serve to create agricultural monopolies that benefit a few people and push the prices up. You eat them down. Our attention and resources, and you're smarter than that, Nestor. Don't dumb down yourself. Our attention and resources should be laser focused on the items we can export. One more acre of Irish potato is one less acre of exportable peppers, ginger, pawpaw, mangoes, and more importantly, for value-added products to make sauces and cannabis products. Unfortunately, we haven't seemed to learn much by staying in sugar for so long. Last year, Jamaica imported $31 million worth of chicken back and turkey neck, most of which was resold for 250 Jamaican dollars per pound. Instead of the good cuts of meat, why do we keep repurchasing so much chicken and other offals? Simply, it comes down to what many Jamaicans actually can afford. That's what they can afford to eat daily. And more than 70% of our population, Madam Speaker, has suffered from insufficient resources to access safe and nutritious foods. Local chicken prices last year rose by 5 times. One pack of leg quarters now retails in some supermarkets for over $1,000. And I think all of us in here know the plight of what that is. That's almost 3.25 times more than chicken in the United States. Chicken back is what is left off of the bone. When it's taken away, it's 44% of bone and skin. There's a little piece of it that is called the oyster. And the U.S. market has no market for these goods, so they're usually dumped here. Not only is chicken back dumped here, offals are dumped here. Liver, kidney, the necks, the tongue, the tripe. And these are also sent to Jamaica. Last year we consumed about $12.8 US worth of these offals. Why? Because Jamaicans cannot afford good cuts of protein. Therefore, any increase to our interest rate increases the cost of these items. And as inflation continues to increase, many Jamaicans will not be able to afford even minimal protein. So they turn to foods that help them to feel full, like flour and rice. Last year, Jamaica imported $81 million US worth of rice. I just said it. And that's why diabetes is so high. As a result, Prime Minister, I'm not blaming you. I'm saying that it is happening over decades and we need to change our ways. As a result, Prime Minister, many Jamaicans, them belly full, but them still hungry. Because they're just full. Because Jamaicans pay among the highest food prices globally, whether locally grown or imported, when our main objective, Madam Speaker, is to increase our overall wealth or reduce the cost of food to the majority of our people. Instead, we should be focusing on the export of organic chicken or yard fowl. Because in the United States, organic chicken retails for $4.99, nearly $5 a pound. Seriously. And if you go to Whole Foods, you can get boneless, skinless chicken breast. You have to pay $9 US per pound. Why are we not exporting yard fowl and setting up our small farmers to send away organic chicken? Not only should we be doing that, but the non-genetically modified food market last year, Madam Speaker, was valued at over $1.49 trillion. US dollars, that's not Jamaican dollars. because people, especially millennials, are trying to eat healthier. So here we are trying to talk about all these things about protecting a locally grown chicken market when we should be focused on exporting those things that we have a value added in. We could try to do something. I want to also, I also want to say, Madam Speaker, that the global ganja and cannabis and pepper industry sauce markets are expected to reach $97.3 billion and $3.77 billion US respectively by the end of 2026. To succeed in exporting any one of these products at even 1% market share would transform Jamaica into the country we say we all want. It is time that we look at what we're planting, because we could be sending and exporting Scotch bonnet and the sauces, Madam Speaker, and using that foreign exchange to buy all of the Irish potato and to support all of our small farmers, because then they would be earning foreign exchange and not have to worry about seasonal products. There would always be a market for them. And it is time to review our methods to structurally transform our economy for diversification and to see ourselves as a value-added export country, focusing on products and services that we can have a globally competitive advantage in. It is time, Madam Speaker, it is time that Jamaica changes its swing, because we definitely need a sun, sand and sea makeover. Last year, in 2020, Prime Minister Mia Mottley said, look, since we're having the pandemic, why not let people come to Barbados and enjoy the pandemic in paradise? And what they did was they had a welcome stamp program. And under this program, Madam Speaker, they had special visas that were sent away. My friend, who is a vice president of a Fortune 500 company, she packed up all of our family in California and our 2 children and came to Barbados. Last year, in 2021, the program was such a success that the then Minister of Home Affairs went back to Parliament and extended the visas of over 3,000 people from over 100 countries globally to continue to stay in Barbados. That had a transformative effect to their economy, because it was a multiplier effect. The children were in schools, they were renting places, they were actually living in different places, not only hotels. And so well said. And a good use of the word. Madam Speaker, why doesn't Jamaica lean in and do something very similar? Why, in 2019, I came to the House and I spoke about retirement tourism, and I gave the solutions for that. It's really time that we focus on medical tourism and tourism for global wellness. There are about 14 million to 16 million people that leave their countries annually in search of medical service. And that was in 2017 alone. Unlike traditional tourism, where a tourist spends about $113 per day, medical tourism, the statistics show that they will spend up to $1,300 a day if they're traveling for medical procedures. So India is now the boss in orthopedic tourism and heart, different things dealing with the heart, whether it is cardiovascular, stents, etc. It's sometimes cheaper to fly to India than to do procedures in the United States. Madam Speaker, one of the things when I was looking at this research, I spoke to several doctors in this country. Dr. Alfred Dawes, who specializes in high-end weight loss treatments, says, look, Jamaica has a competitive edge because of our location to be competitive in laparoscopic stomach surgeries and the like. But we can't compete because of the cost of the tools of trade. For example, a stapler to divide the stomach in his surgeries is 4 times the cost in Jamaica versus Brazil. So where you have Jamaicans flying to Dom Rep, Mexico, and all about the place, because the total surgery in Mexico, for example, for overweight persons to have that surgery is $8,000 US flat. Just to stay in the hospital here in Jamaica is $7,000 US. And what the doctors are saying is, look, we can position Jamaica for medical tourism. We just have to put the right tools of trade in place. If you look at what the Global Wellness Institute is saying, and they disclosed it last year, is that the global wellness economy generated $4.4 trillion US during 2020, and wellness tourism accounted for $436 billion. It's growing at a rate of 50% faster than traditional sun, sand, and sea tourism. And, Madam Speaker, we have to pivot. We have to look at some of these things, and we have to wake up and implement some of these things to take advantage of it. And with that, I want to turn to something else. If we're going to access the global wellness industry, we have the mineral springs that are 54 more times radiative than some of the mineral springs in Europe. For example, the Bath and the Milk River. Bath is in St. Thomas, right? And we have Rockford. But let us look at Milk River for a moment in Clarendon. Right? In Clarendon.
We adapt him though.
Madam Speaker, this place has been open from before slavery ended, from 1794. Right now, when I looked at the annual report for Milk River, when I looked at the annual report for 2020 for Milk River, it earned about 51 million Jamaican dollars. It is paying 26 million in staff. And by the time it took away all the other expenses, what it earned was actually 2.7 million. Now, right now, if you look at global cosmetic companies, let us look at La Mer, for example. You cannot buy a 3.4 ounce of La Mer serum, which is owned by Estee Lauder, if you don't have $900 US. You know what is in that product? Mineral water, thermal mineral water, sea kelp, and some other things. If you go to Israel and look at the Dead Sea, there is a company called Premier Dead Sea Pharmaceuticals that is right there in Israel producing cosmetics that they export to 48 countries. Prime Minister, we need to have a proper spa and boutique hotel out by the Milk River. We need to bring the cosmetic hotels. We don't need to divest Milk River. We need to do it ourselves. And we can do it ourselves. I am really tired of seeing us obfuscate our innovation to others, not trying to do it on our own. And we can do it. We can bring the people here. We can organize it. But this is where we are going to make some of the money. What happened? I'm flattered, but you can still appoint me and I can still stay here. But, Madam Speaker, the truth is that our brand, our Jamaican brand, gives us a premier opportunity to leverage this asset. And we don't need to divest the asset to anybody else but Jamaicans. Let's try and do it, Prime Minister. I'll show you how you can do it. Huh? If I want it? Listen, I'm Jamaica first. So if the Prime Minister needs my advice in terms of getting it done, I have no problems giving him. I don't want to cross the floor to do that. Anyway, Prime Minister, I've given you enough ideas. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I hope I get back my time. Madam Speaker, I hope I get back my time. Madam Speaker, I hope I get back my time. Madam Speaker,
Members, Members, enough.
Thank
Allow
you.
Member Hannah to finish her presentation. There's no extra time to be had.
Madam Speaker, another significant opportunity that we're risking loss in is a global bottled water industry. And I spoke about this some time ago because it's currently worth about US $230 billion. And it is projected to grow to $405 billion by the end of 2027. Now, the rising consumer awareness of better health is pushing the global demand and product sales for water, especially among younger consumers. And if we're following the trends, most restaurants abroad have mineral water, sparkling water, still water, all kind of different water, and there's so many companies that are advanced. But more granular is that the United Nations states that there are almost 16,000 desalination plants across 177 countries giving purified water because of the increased needs and of populations growing and the scarcity of good water, and because of urbanization due to climate change and other contamination issues, people are requesting more purified water. So in 2018, Mexico and Thailand had the highest per capita consumption of bottled water worldwide at 72.4 gallons per person. Madam Speaker, over the last 10 years, the United States annual bottled water consumption grew by almost 40%. But they're getting their water from Italy and from Fiji. Why are they getting it from there when Jamaica is right here? Why isn't Jamaica exporting bottled water, even a box water, since we want to be climate focused? Fiji water was started, Prime Minister, in 1996. It now ships to all continents and commands $150 million in annual sales from the United States alone. Yeah. Fiji's population is a little less than 900,000 people, slightly more than 894,444, a little more than a quarter of Jamaica's population. You see, if we were to even carve out 0.5% of the global bottled water market share, we would have a national export industry worth anywhere between US $1 billion to $2 billion. And this is an achievable goal. If you take out bauxite and aluminum, right now Jamaica does not export even $250 million worth of products. Rum, $56 million US. Yam, $30 million. Coffee, $11.9 million. Round it off to 12. Baked goods, $22 million. Ackee, $20 million US. Sauces, $24 million. Scrap metal, $11.6 million. Chemicals, $31 million. We are not exporting anything. Hold on. That is our annual exports. Significantly, Jamaica has won the award for Caribbean water from the Caribbean Water and Wastewater Association for the best quality drinking water in the regions 3 times in a row, 2012, 2013, and 2014. And we're blessed with clean water. So we have an advantage too, because apart from recreational drinking of water, people like, imagine if we had a national water that says, drink the water that has the best coffee in the world. We have Usain Bolt, we have so many different things that gives us a global brand, and we're not taking advantage of it. And so, Madam Speaker, I often think about it that when the Iraqis were watching Columbus discover Jamaica running on the beach and watching him discover it, they were sitting right there on the beach when Columbus came and discovered us, and they watched him do it, right? I do not want another situation where a foreigner is going to come and discover that our water is $1 billion US industry. What?
Sunset.
Well, it named Fiji. Right? It doesn't need to be a government-run business, member. Right. The issue, Madam Speaker, is that we have to start thinking differently. We have to change our swing. And it is the same way we focus on getting things done. So whether it is water, whether it is cosmetics, whether it is any kind of business that will give us a global competitive advantage, medical tourism, we have to clear the way to give the investment opportunities to build and grow our economy. That's what I'm talking about. And that is why we cannot be afraid of the things that we don't know, like NFTs, like non-fungible tokens and the metaverse. The metaverse is here. It's Internet 3.0. It's what people are using. It's what artists around the world are now creating in this new digital realm. Because when it was 174 years ago, and Mr. Torrens designed the registration system for titles that allowed you for a central register to record who was a legitimate owner of a property. Now, what you have is a situation where people can have duplicate certificates confirming their ownership.
Member's time for speaking has expired. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I ask that the House allow the member sufficient time for her to complete her presentation.
Question is that the member be allowed sufficient time to complete her presentation. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Member Hannah.
My president is sitting over there. Our president. Madam Speaker, before I continue, the orderly gave out things. Members can click on the QR code and they can follow the presentation if they choose to. Carl, if you open your camera, this is a QR code. Just open your smartphone. Okay. All right. Madam Speaker, I want to... Members, thank you.
Enough.
Madam Speaker.
Member Hannah, please complete your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't have much longer to go. Madam Speaker, when Robert Richards Torrens developed a registration system for titles that allowed for a central register to record the legitimate owner of a property and provide that owner with a duplicate certificate confirming their ownership. This system was the foundation for real estate commerce and mortgage financing. Fast forward to the 1990s when the internet revolutionized the world. So today, if you search your bank balance online, those funds are not physically sitting in the bank. You see what is called an IOU from the bank to pay that amount on demand in the denominated currency. We already depend on computers to account for our currency ownership, so why not everything else that we own? The next phase of the internet, referred to Web 3 or Web 3.0, is here, and the world that you've been accustomed to is morphing into a digital one with every passing day. That's true. Now you can digitally register anything that you own with cloud registration, also known as blockchain, to which everyone has access. Last year, the psychological hype around digital value confused people in the main as to what was a token and why were Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT tokens being resold for millions and millions of US dollars online. Madam Speaker, an NFT is a unique certificate of registration of a digital asset or a one-of-a-kind digital asset that only belongs to you. You are now buying into a community, and every time you buy that asset, anybody that uses that asset has to pay you something from it. Now, it is a unique unit of data employing technology that allows digital content to be logged and authenticated. It can be individual or part of a collection, allowing owners to feel as though they're joining an exclusive online community. Yep. Madam Speaker, the metaverse is here and it's growing. And whether or not you choose to accept it, if you need, you don't have to accept it, but you have to understand it. Because this particular world is a game, and people are playing this game daily. And the top brands of the world are wasting no time to go into that game with avatars. Adidas, Fendi, all of these companies are going into the metaverse. They just had a runway show. They had all kinds of things taking place there, and designers are making clothes for the metaverse and building their own NFT collection. Jamaica is a global brand, and we need to brand the metaverse with NFT Jamaican everything. The issue is that right now there are people in other countries who are building Jamaica that you can visit without even coming here when you put on your digital things, and selling those vacations in the metaverse. We are not taking advantage of it, and it is going to leave us, and I am concerned. So what is going to happen? We must have a situation where Prime Minister, we have to find a way for artists in Jamaica because many of them have to now log their accounts overseas, because Jamaica does not allow you to trade in cryptocurrencies. They have to form their cryptocurrencies accounts overseas. So this is a call to action for all of us inside here to develop the legislation for Jamaican artists, musicians, and content creators to monetize their content by leapfrogging their minds to this new reality of digital ownership management and the sale of NFTs and metaverse content with cryptocurrency. Madam Speaker, the CEO at the time, Jack Dorsey, sold his first tweet for $2.9 million. His first tweet when he started Twitter, Prime Minister. And LeBron James turned his cosmic dunk video into an NFT and sold it for nearly $400,000. The sky is a limit in this particular area, and we need to give the opportunity for more of our content creators like Bonita Thompson, who is an AR artist called Don Dada, who is actually doing amazing things in the metaverse. But more Jamaican artists need to get in there. Madam Speaker? Huh? Yeah. No, it's more than that, Prime Minister. But if we don't act quickly, it'll go left way. It leave way already, but we can't catch up. Madam Speaker, the late Agri Brown was my mentor, my teacher, and my friend. And I remember the first time he and I spoke about, in 1993, as a matter of fact, nearly 30 years ago. And we spoke about the globalization of culture and what was happening in the world pre the information superhighway. And he said this to me, and I'll never forget it. He said, all things are connected. And whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons of the earth. Man did not weave the web of life. He's merely a strand in it. And whatever he does to that web, he does to himself. And when I asked him, I said, where did you get that from? And he said, Chief Seattle. I think a lot of us in here probably are exposed to Chief Seattle. And if you're not, read some of the things that he writes. The truth is, Madam Speaker, is that we are all connected. And I stand here not by myself. I stand here because, and I'm able to serve Jamaica because other people created the opportunity for me. It wasn't by myself, and it was a collective weaving of individuals and groups who have contributed to who you are seeing and who you are hearing today. The people of my constituency, the people of Jamaica, my constituency office staff, the People's National Party, my colleagues on both sides of the House, my current leader of the opposition, and past leaders. And past leaders of the opposition, and the current Prime Minister and past Prime Ministers. Madam Speaker, my parliamentary team that is here, my son, my family, my friends, my ride and die, which sit on right as and as a result of that connectedness and that ability for everybody in that web to create an opportunity that it gives me an appreciation to serve my country that allows me to stand here. I know I have a responsibility. I know I have a responsibility and a duty. Because anything that I do, any decision that I take, has repercussions for the people who are here now and the people who are coming behind me. And I don't take that responsibility lightly, because I know all of us, whatever we do, the member from St. Mary. Western, not Central. Anything boy, I'm going to tell him them saucy today, sir. Anything that I do, anything that we do, it is, we are all connected, and so we do it to ourselves. Therefore, Madam Speaker, that is why we have a duty. That is why we all have a duty in this House to take the right decisions. Because we must prepare this country so that when generations come after us, they will say that we were ahead of our time. That is why on February 21st, 2022, Madam Speaker, I warned this country as opposition spokesperson of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade that if Russia entered the Ukraine, it was going to be a hellish, perilous state that the world would fall into. And also it would affect us deeply, because anything that happens in the rest of the world happens to Jamaica. So I thought not only would the world's largest economies impose financial sanctions on Russian banks, but any conflict of that nature and the associated sanctions would have had a devastating impact on the production of exported food, not only to Western markets, but markets in Turkey, the Middle East, and Africa. Because unfortunately, when I said it, Madam Speaker, many Jamaicans didn't understand what that alarm was. And what they said was, "Anafiwe war." So make we left that alone and concern ourselves. But the fact was that war impacts everybody globally, including Jamaica. And beyond the humanitarian catastrophe that we're now seeing, there's a broader, long-term geopolitical and economic implication that this form of conflict affects globally, and that is our global supply chains and our energy and food sectors. Not only directly, Madam Speaker, but indirectly. The Russian Federation is the second largest supplier of oil, producing 10.1 million barrels of oil a day. And it is ranked as a top exporter for nitrogen fertilizer and the second leading supplier of both potassic and phosphorus fertilizers. There are 25 countries that are dependent on the supply of Russian fertilizer. Last year, Russia stood out as a top global wheat exporter, exporting 32.9 million tons of wheat and meslin, or 18% of international shipments. Ukraine stood as the fifth largest wheat exporter in 2021, exporting 20 million tons of wheat and meslin and a 10% global market share. Russia and Ukraine held nearly 30% of the worldwide market share of wheat products. What Jamaicans also need to know, Madam Speaker, is that Ukraine also produces half of the world's sunflower seed oil. The substantial production bases of both themselves and Russia in the global maize, barley, rapeseed, and sunflower oilseed markets have a combined world export market share of close to 64%. Approximately 50 nations rely on these two countries for roughly 30% of their wheat import needs. Although this war, Madam Speaker, is thousands and thousands of miles away, it has already devastating impacts on not only other people, but our people. And the pockets of the poor have been the hardest hit. We all saw when crude oil went to $125 per barrel, and when it was $58 just a year ago. And oil prices affect everything. It affects commercial and domestic electricity, transportation, food production. What's more is that the cutoff of these significant global suppliers of wheat and oil is going to create the kinds of shortages, especially with fertilizer. And it could potentially hurt our spring harvest in the larger countries that we rely on for food, because they're not going to get the fertilizer out of these countries because of the sanctions. So is the Russia-Ukrainian war a Jamaican problem? In summary, yes, it is. And it is going to drive up the cost of food, electricity, transportation, mortgage payments, rent, construction supplies, gas, fuel. All of these have increased because of the pandemic, but it's going to get even worse. It is going to even affect the higher purchase rates of people and the cost of borrowing money for employers to create jobs in this country and making more investments more expensive. Madam Speaker, over the past 8 months, the Bank of Jamaica has moved its benchmark interest rate from 0.5% to 4.5%. While this may take some time to impact the personal interest rates of people, it is going to be debilitating on people, especially their disposable incomes, when it does. Of the 146 countries worldwide, Jamaica is at 142 in terms of the highest electricity bills. There are only 4 countries in the world that pay more in electricity prices than Jamaica. Now, if you're going to add what is happening in terms of the increases in electricity already, you can probably put another 30% on people's electricity bills. And this is going to make life very difficult. In some cases, food, because of the shortages with no oil and cooking oil. We saw increases last year that the opposition spokesperson on finance pointed out. In some cases, oil went up by 50% for cooking last year, expected to go up. So, Prime Minister, I've always stated that Jamaica will never really have true prosperity if we focus on only creating and selling products to 3 million people. Our import substitution policy needs to be replaced by an urgent, value-added export agenda. We need to create the opportunity to sell outside of ourselves to try and make the kind of foreign exchange, and not only internally. Furthermore, Prime Minister, we need to immediately, and I said this in February, we need to urgently establish a food and energy crisis task force to forecast the other fallouts that are going to take place and prepare for them. This is not going to get any better. It is actually going to get worse. And our dependence on international trade for raw materials, food production, oil, and fertilizer dictates that we cannot adopt a wait-and-see attitude. Instead, we must be proactive and strategic now to ensure that Jamaica globally repositions ourselves and look at the opportunities that we have in terms of competition globally. Madam Speaker, in closing, I want to say that we have the natural beauty in this country. We have creative people. We have the best soil that gives our food the best taste. We have the proximity to the largest consumer market in the world, North America, and the geographical positioning to take advantage of Europe, South America, and Asian trade routes. Short-term band-aids, though, cannot remain our go-to response to building our country and our people. As a country, we seem to be walking backward into the future with our eyes wide shut, and so many Jamaicans fret daily and remain invisible. This strategy over decades has gotten us nowhere globally or even regionally. The many travels to and from seem almost like tokenism now with all of the photo opportunities. And foreign direct investments continue to evade us like how when Tom chased Jerry in the cartoon. So, Madam Speaker, I am concerned because we're looking at a war in Russia-Ukraine, but right here in Jamaica, if we use the international benchmark of what a civil war is the murder of 46.2 murders per 100,000, 30 murders per 100,000. Jamaica is at 46.2 per 100,000. And we are ranked as the second in the world for murder, and the second for killing women. And Madam Speaker, just today, the news, Prime Minister, just today the news reported in Montego Bay that thugs went into one of our hospitals and demanded with guns that they release a patient. This is where we are.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of correction, if I
Sure.
may, because I think
I said the news reported.
I know, but I think it's important, if I'm allowed, Madam Speaker, just to clarify, because it's a national issue, it's been discussed widely on the media, and
Yes.
I don't want the member to be misinformed. I'm
Yeah.
not saying she's doing anything deliberate. It's an information issue.
Yes, Minister Tufton.
Correction.
Minister Tufton, it would appear Member Hannah has yielded.
Quickly, Madam
Member-
Speaker. Quickly.
Member,
Madam Speaker,
go ahead.
it's a point of clarification.
Go ahead, Minister Tufton. Go ahead, Minister Tufton. There's no point of order, you know.
Madam Speaker, just to say,
The member yielded. Minister Tufton, go ahead. Quiet in the House,
that
please.
there was an incident at Cornwall Regional. It involved no guns. It involved a group of family members, friends who wanted a patient discharged, and they were boisterous, they were loud, but there was no guns drawn or threats of gunfire exchange, as is being reported in sections of the media. I think that's important. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Go ahead,
Minister,
Member Hannah.
thank you for the clarification. I think that is an important clarification. But it does not take away the larger point, Madam Speaker, because since 1962, murders in this country has increased by over 2,040%. Madam Speaker, in this country, if we continue at that rate in another 60 years, if we continue with this momentum, in another 60 years, you will see in any 1 year over 26,000 Jamaicans being murdered in 1 year. The problem is that in this country, 18% of our male population between the ages of 15 to 34 are responsible for 75% of the murders that are committed in this country. And, Madam Speaker, I am concerned because as we look at a war in another country, we're experiencing an unrecognizable war in this country, whether we want to recognize it or not. And so, Madam Speaker, in this era, we must do what we must so that we can eventually do what we want. And though some of the policies that we may need to put in place might not be politically expedient for the JLP or the PMP to win an election, we have to develop the courage to get it done and get it done with urgency. For the people of this country, Madam Speaker, our purpose in this House will redound to only being road fixers, Easter Bunny, Santa Clauses, and sometimes in our cases FedEx, where people want express packages where we give them out annually and sometimes daily. That is what our role will be if we don't take serious and change our swing. Madam Speaker, there is a fierce urgency now calling on us to change our old habits, meaningfully engage in working cooperatively across the aisle, and look towards sustainability so we can give our people a lifestyle to afford good protein and nutritious food daily, to feed themselves and their families, to keep them safe in their violent-free communities, and to educate them to compete with the best in the world. Madam Speaker, it is time, colleagues, it is time that we change our swing. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
House Leader.
Sorry? No recommittal. Tomorrow. And Madam Speaker, I would like to thank the member from South East St. Anne for her very enlightening Yes, Madam Speaker, I would like to thank the member from...
Calm down.
I would like to thank the member from Southeast St. Anne for a very enlightening and engaging presentation. Thank you, member. Madam Speaker, I now ask that the sectoral debate be suspended until tomorrow, when the member from Northeast Manchester will make his presentation. No, do that first.
Question is that the sectoral debate be suspended until tomorrow. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, there is not proposed to do any further business, so I now ask that the House be suspended until tomorrow.
Question is that the House be suspended until tomorrow at 2 p.m. sharp. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. This honorable House now stands adjourned.